Well, as the country continues to battle the coronavirus pandemic, the nationwide lockdown has impacted business and employees, with some not being able to work and some businesses not being able to pay workers. Cosatu's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks, joins us for the Federation's reaction. Thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us. So are you happy with the movement made by the Reserve Bank yesterday?
Yes, as Cosatu, we're quite pleased that the Reserve Bank cut the repo rate by 50 points. That is something we've been calling for. And in fact, we're also quite pleased when they responded positively to our previous request for the repo rate to be cut by 100 points both in April and May this past 2 months. It's quite critical because it immediately provides extra money into workers' pockets. It helps to allow consumers to survive, including SMEs. Every little bit of money we can throw into the economy, into companies, into workers' pockets, into consumers, will help them to survive this shutdown and hopefully to emerge.
Yes. I think one of the things that's concerning, Matthew, is that obviously monetary policy is helpful, but it can only be helpful to a certain degree. Even if they were to give us a further 100 basis points this year, at some point they're going to run out of room to be able to do so. So then we would want to depend on fiscal policy, but there doesn't seem to be much joy in that, does there?
Look, we have to push on all fronts, and you're right. There's not one single magic wand. They all play a different role in the broader puzzle. We do think there is space for another 125 basis points cuts throughout this year. You remember inflation is expected to decrease further to about 2.8%. But equally, the Reserve Bank is playing its role now, which is helpful. But the commercial banks have to come to the party even more. They can afford to cut their lending rates to consumers, to SMEs, to low-income earners, especially much more. The other financial lenders also, the payday lenders, the short-term lenders also need to really come to the party because they've been largely missing. But we are pleased and hopeful that the Minister of Finance is going to table a supplementary budget to Parliament at the end of June. We hope they're going to provide a bold stimulus plan. So we welcome the 500 billion rand economic relief measures the President mentioned about a month ago in his address to the nation.
Yes.
But we think to deal with at least a 7%, if not a 15% GDP contraction this year, we need to have a stimulus plan of at least 1 trillion rand. We recognize that not all of it can come from government, as much as it might reprioritize the budget, might increase deficit, might tap into international financial aid. But the private sector, in the form of the banks and investment funds, has to decisively come to the party.
Yeah. Now, Matthew, we do know that some of your colleagues within Cosatu, particularly those who represent the education side of things, they have expressed their concerns about going back to school on the 1st of June, asking, are schools ready? Will the Department of Basic Education be able to put all the things that they need to put in place in order to ensure their safety and the safety of pupils? But more broadly, among the Cosatu leadership, how are you feeling about people beginning to go back to work? And are you satisfied that across the industries that you represent, enough is being done to ensure that indeed people will be safe when they go back to work?
Look, our position as Cosatu has always been about the need to save workers' lives, but also to save workers' jobs. The two go hand in hand. An unemployed person can't be healthy because they won't be able to buy food or medication, and equally an unhealthy person is not able to work. We are quite worried that employers across the economy, both in the public sector and the private sector, are not ready. We're worried that workers may come to a safe workplace, but they'll get infected in overcrowded trains and lawless taxis. We've had many workers working throughout the shutdown period at supermarkets, as cashiers, as police officers, as prison wardens, as doctors and nurses being infected, simply because their employers, public and private, didn't put in place the necessary health and safety interventions like deep cleaning, the protective equipment, regular screening and testing, and so on. So workers are going to end up being made to pay the price. We have to adjust to the new normal. COVID won't disappear. We need to go back to work to save workers' jobs so they can buy food. But we think employers have to be held accountable, and those who fall short must be dealt with through fines, and if they're found to be malicious or grossly negligent, to even be arrested. We can't compromise workers' lives or their jobs.
And what are your feelings and thoughts about the potential of South Africa having more adults of working age not actually working versus those who do?
we're quite scared. Before the shutdown, we had a 40% unemployment rate and thousands were being retrenched. During this 2-month period, the UIF has, by this morning, paid about 2.6 million workers unemployment insurance benefits. Many of those are workers who have been retrenched, and others are workers who have been put on unpaid leave. Many companies may not survive. You would have seen Edcon has gone into business rescue, SAA and SA Express are in liquidation of some sorts. Other parastatals like Denel cannot afford to pay salaries of workers. The private sector is heavily hit. So it's quite worrying. We need to really get the economy going. And it's going to have to mean the private sector must come significantly to the party. We can't depend upon other countries to save us. We've got to coordinate our domestic investment, our stimulus plan. And the stimulus funding for companies has to be tied to conditions.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Matthew, talking to you, because if I was speaking to a representative of business, they would tell me that they need Labour to come to the party. To what extent do you think there will be unity in trying to deal with the impacts of COVID-19 among government, business and Labour? Because obviously there needs to be a meeting of mind for us to actually go, forge ahead, so to speak.
Yes, no, exactly. We've been driving as Cosatu the principles of a social compact. We did that through the national minimum wage quite successfully. We did it through the ESCOM social compact, which is nearing completion, where we had a principle as Cosatu that all of us must contribute, compromise and sacrifice for the broader national good. There are some non-negotiable principles for us as Cosatu, which is we cannot sacrifice workers' jobs or lives. But beyond that, we have to all contribute. So one of the things we did as Cosatu in the beginning of the shutdown was to push the UF to release more funding to help workers. So that 40 billion rand which came from the UF was workers' money to help save companies who couldn't afford to pay their workers, to help pay for those workers' wages. But we agree. We've really, right now, as Labour, as government, as business, we have to come together for the sake of a national good and see how do we save the economy, how do we rebuild the state, how do we save workers' jobs. There's enough that should unite us. Yeah,
the task is huge and unity definitely needed. Thank you so much, Matthew, for your time. That was Matthew Parks. He's the parliamentary coordinator at Cosatu.